Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Welcome to the second Halal preview session of Knowledge Hub segment of the 17th Malaysia International Halal Showcase MIHAS 2021 happening every Wednesday until 1st September 2021. We hope you have benefited from last week's preview on Halal and SMEs. If you have missed the session, simply visit us at www.mihas.com.my to view the recording. For today's session, our experienced panelists will share his insight on how halal can complement your export business. Due to the current uncertainty of demand and saturated domestic market, export continue to be promising option for Malaysian companies. Export has been the backbone of the country, providing better employment opportunities and life for Malaysians. Experience the topic. Grow your halal ecosystem by leveraging on export opportunities together with Mr. Segar Govindasamy, Head of Transaction Banking Sales, Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia Berhad. Mr. Segar has held various positions within Standard Chartered in Singapore and Qatar, and currently responsible for the strategy and delivery of the bank's cash and trade finance capabilities in Malaysia. Before we start, I also invite you to join discussion by prominent experienced Malaysians and international panelists in our plenary sessions happening next month from 10 to 12 September. Ladies and gentlemen, do not miss your opportunity to export. Register today at www.mihas.com.my. I now hand over the session to Mr. Segar of Standard Chartered Bank Malaysia Berhad.
Salam sejahtera to all, and thank you so much for being here. Welcome to preview session, Malaysia International Halal Showcase 2021 Knowledge Sharing Webinar. I'm your speaker, Segar Govindasamy from Standard Chartered Bank. It is an honor for me to represent Standard Chartered Bank as a strategic partner of Martrade in delivering the MIHAS preview session titled Halal and Exports. The COVID-19 pandemic has set off an unprecedented chain of reaction on the global supply chain disruptions and also financial crisis. Despite the challenges, there has been notable development in the halal economy led by an acceleration in digital transformations, changes to global supply chain models, and increase in food and medical security initiatives. Today's preview session leads to the 17th Malaysia International Halal Showcase 2021 to be held from 9 September until year end. This webinar is for exporters that are looking to expand their halal business and keen to hear what are the changes and opportunities in the export markets. By the end of this webinar, my goal is to provide an actionable plan and the resources to get started. Let's look at Malaysia's export performance for the first half 2021. Malaysia trade export recorded a strong 29.3% year-on-year growth to 188.7 billion ringgit compared to June 2020. Total export stood at 470 billion ringgit for the first half 2021. The export growth was contributed by strong demand for petroleum products, electrical and electronic products, mainly electronic integrated circuit used in the production of smartphones, cars, computers, and home appliances. Export to all major markets, namely ASEAN, China, the United States, the European Union, and Japan, recorded double-digit expansion. Let's move on to the halal export performance. Malaysia's export for halal products is expected to be short of 20 billion ringgit from the initial target of 50 billion ringgit, recording a 31 billion ringgit in 2020 due to COVID-19 disrupting supply chain on a global scale, which happened to almost all industries. Despite the decline, Halal Development Corporation estimates that the global halal market is projected to hit $2.3 trillion by 2024. As you can see from the chart here, food and beverage remains the largest value contributor of $4.13 billion US dollars, followed by halal ingredients at $2.09 billion US dollars, cosmetics and personal care at $0.64 billion US dollars, palm oil derivatives $0.21 billion US dollars, chemical industry at $0.11 billion US dollars, and finally, pharmaceutical products at $0.07 billion US dollars. Top exporting halal countries are Singapore at $0.97 billion US dollars, followed by China at $0.81 billion US dollars, United States at $0.41 billion US dollars, Thailand at $0.35 billion US dollars, and lastly, Indonesia at $0.31 billion US dollars. As global expansion is core to any industry's long-term target, halal industry players should be equally focused on the domestic halal market, which is considered to be much untapped. At the moment, the domestic halal market stands at 280 billion ringgit and forecast to reach 400 billion ringgit by 2030. Malaysia's commitment in promoting the halal industry can be seen in our 14 billion ringgit investment to develop halal parks, where halal-oriented businesses will benefit from infrastructure, support services, and tax incentives to drive Malaysia's ambition to be a global halal hub. According to Halal Development Corporation, there are a total of 295 companies are currently in operation across 21 halal parks in Malaysia, comprising 42 multinational corporations and 253 locally owned companies. A number of halal multinational corporations in operations in the halal parks are Kellogg Asia Products Sdn Bhd, Coca-Cola Bottlers Malaysia Sdn Bhd, Ajinomoto Malaysia Berhad, F&N Dairies Manufacturing Sdn Bhd. For more information on the companies in the halal parks, do reach out to Halal Development Corporation Berhad. On this slide, I'd like to share with you what are the impact of the supply chain disruption and the changes companies are undertaking post-COVID-19. Number one, diversification or dual sourcing. Many companies were forced to look for alternative when China, the world's factory, shut down its plants and factories during COVID-19. Number two, vertical integration of supply chain become ever more critical. Bigger companies are also looking at integrating vertically throughout the value chain, moving away beyond China to seize autonomy and also control cost and quality and suppliers of input into their supply chain ecosystem. Emphasis on supply chain visibility becomes ever more critical nowadays. Not only larger suppliers, but companies are also focusing on their small suppliers in far-flung locations to make sure that they have visibility in terms of the product delivery, in terms of the viability and also resilience of those suppliers in their whole supply chain processes. And number four, companies are increasingly looking at localizing supply chain. More and more companies are considering bringing manufacturing in-house or closer to home. A good example will be in the pharmaceutical or biotechnology space, which has shown that a lot of companies or countries, in fact, are beholden to other countries for critical supplies or material for vaccine, for example. And lastly, digitalization of supply chain. Companies are increasingly investing in online distribution channels to make sure that whilst their physical stores are closed, they continue to operate and have presence on the e-commerce side or digital storefront to continue operating and push their products to the end consumer. And finally, companies are also looking at adopting digital transformation of supply chain networks, leveraging on 5G technologies, IoT, robotics to ensure their supply chains continue to remain resilient and is able to be held with any shocks that may happen in the future. Let me share with you some of the things that the banks are doing to support our clients and companies during the pandemic. Number one, the slide in global trade as countries across the globe descended into a lockdown has understandably been hugely disruptive for companies. As such, companies require support in several vital areas. First and foremost, to ensure ample liquidity, where banks are providing temporary credit facility to ensure companies continue to operate in this very difficult, challenging time. Second, acceding to moratorium requests, given the prolonged inability of the company to operate, in keeping credit lines active wherever possible, and in mitigating risk across companies' day-to-day operation, including their trade operation. Secondly, companies are swiftly moving away from open account trading, which is extremely risky for exporters, to using sophisticated trade finance instruments such as letter of credit, and also increasingly looking at banks to add confirmation for the letter of credit that they receive. Lastly, which is very critical, the acceleration and also adoption of digital channel becomes more and more critical, given that a lot of the companies are operating from different locations. We have adopted multiple channels and also make this channel available to our client, such as accepting email instruction, accepting digital signatures, opening up digital trade counters for our clients to upload the application forms for LC issuance, BG issuance. And to the extent we also accept scanned copies of documents without signature, but as long as the authorized signatory confirm via the email that they are approving the transaction, the bank is processing those transactions. Those are some of the examples that the banks are adopting to support our client during this difficult time. Let's refresh our understanding of different trade finance payment types. In trade finance, there are 4 payment types or payment methods. Number 1, advance payment. Number 2, letter of credit. Number 3, collection bills. And finally, open account. As an exporter, the most secure or the least riskiest payment method for you is the advance payment, followed by letter of credit, collection bills, and lastly, open account. Let's review the payment types one by one. Advance payment method. It is where an importer will pay the exporter before the goods are shipped. Least riskiest to the exporter, but very high risk to importer because of what happens if the goods are not delivered, but you already paid. Hence, the risk is very high. Second, documentary credit or letter of credit. This is a bank prior undertaking to exporter to pay for the goods that are shipped. Importers pays when he knows that the goods are on the way and pay upon evidence of shipment. For documentary credit or letter of credit, the important thing to note is that banks are only dealing with the documents. As long as the documents are compliant and clean, the bank will undertake to pay. Now, moving on to documentary collection. Exporter is able to collect payment from an overseas importer through an intermediary bank. Exporter maintains control over the goods and also ensure that the goods or the title of the goods are only handed over to the importer upon acceptance for payment. And finally, open account payment method, which is pay upon receipt. Goods are shipped and delivered before payment is due. Exporter may have to wait for weeks or even months for the money. Right? And this is obviously risk, the most least risk to the importer, but a high risk to an exporter. Let's review the components of a letter of credit, which can help to mitigate credit risk of buyers and also importantly, mitigate country risk as well. There are several parties involved in a letter of credit transaction. You have an applicant, which is the buyer and importer of the good, who has to make payment to the beneficiary. Beneficiary is the seller or the exporter of the good who has to receive payment from applicant. Issuing bank is the bank that is issuing the letter of credit at the request and instruction of the applicant. Advising bank is a bank that advises the LC to the beneficiary, thereby ensuring the genuineness of the LC and the authenticity of the LC. A confirming bank if so required, is a bank that adds its guarantee to the credit opened by the issuing bank and guarantee payment obligation on the due date in the event the issuing bank doesn't pay. Nominated bank is a bank that is nominated by the issuing bank to honor the drawings. Reimbursing bank, the bank that is authorized to honor the reimbursement claim settlement. And finally, negotiating bank, the bank that received the documents presented by the beneficiary and is authorized to negotiate or advance the funds to the beneficiary. Okay. Moving to the next slide. A letter of credit always include the following basic components. Number one, whether it is revocable or irrevocable designation. Second, must have a beneficiary's name and address. Aggregate amount in the specified currency very clearly articulated or specified. Letter of credit usually can be issued in any currency. Has an expiration date and place of expiration date. There are clear payment terms and conditions, which is very important because unclear payment terms and condition leads to discrepancy and may delay the payment turnaround time. Presentation period for documents is also very critical, whether it's restricted or freely negotiable. This allows the beneficiary to use other banks to discount the LC or negotiate the LC. Required documentation has to be very clear so that there's no higher rejection or discrepancy. Origins of good, place of shipment, destination, shipping terms, FOB, FCA has to be clearly specified. If there are any reimbursement instruction, it has to be specified as well. On this slide, I'd like to share some of the tips that you can use to look for alternative financing. The instrument that I want to share is discounting and negotiation of letter of credit, which is an alternative financing source to exporters. What I mean by that is that upon presentation and acceptance of the LC by the issuing bank, you as an exporter can request for the LC to be discounted upfront rather than wait for the due date of the LC, which potentially could be 30 days, 60 days, 90 days from today. Your bank, advising bank, may have limit on the issuing bank, thereby is able to discount the LC, taking the bank risk and paying you cash upfront rather than waiting for the due date, which can certainly help you in your cash flow and also using the cash to better use for your working capital requirement. I highly encourage you to speak with your bankers on this solution. Let me just walk through with you some of the technical aspects of this solution. If you look at the chart, for most exporters, this will be something that is easy for you to understand or resonate with you. Let's look at the exporter in Malaysia. Once the exporter has shipped the goods, of course, prior to that, you receive an LC that clearly stipulates what are the terms of the export. Once you have shipped the goods, you can then submit the documents to your advising bank, which will then check the documents to make sure that it is a compliant presentation. Upon compliant presentation, the documents will then be couriered to the issuing bank for acceptance. Now, at that point, once the document has been accepted by the issuing bank or the applicant, you can request your advising bank to discount the LC and pay you cash minus the financing charges. So this essentially will help you to reduce your day sales outstanding and critically improve your cash flow position, which is very critical at this juncture during the economic challenges that we are facing due to COVID-19. To sum up, the halal global market is projected to grow to $2.3 trillion by 2024, and the domestic halal market is expected to grow to 400 billion ringgit by 2030. Halal industry players should be equally focused on the domestic market, which is still considered to be much untapped. Finally, we would like to invite you to visit Standard Chartered Sadiq booth at the MIHAS event starting September 2021. We would also like to invite you to the sustainability event, which will focus on two themes. Number one, decarbonizing supply chain, and halal and sustainability. There is an exciting list of renowned industry leaders and speakers who will be speaking at the event. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you at the MIHAS 2021 event.
Thank you, Mr. Segar, for the interesting presentation on the topic Grow Your Halal Ecosystem by Leveraging on Export Opportunities. We hope the sharing will help you further understand how export transactions work. Ladies and gentlemen, we have for you today some sharing of experience by CargoMind, a logistic company, and also CMC Engineering, a transport communication company, on their export journey. Please enjoy the short videos.
As a logistic company, CargoMind Sdn Bhd have three things. Number one is logistic planning. Number two, consultation of cargo movement. Number three, mobilizing of a shipment plan. We are licensed with Malaysia Royal Customs as a forwarding agent and shipping agency. We are registered with Ministry of Finance, and we are also certified with ISO. When I first started of the company, we need fund to operate. We have to compete a price with multinational company or local giant company. We must always have to keep thinking and thinking. As a logistic industry, if you just really focus on domestic, it's considered not enough of supply chain movement. We have clients from UK, US, Japan, Korea, and most industries need in Malaysia. In logistic challenges working with international company, we need to understand about their regulation, cargo movement regulation, about shipment regulation, about custom regulation, a lot of things. Different country, different regulation. Malaysia have very good infrastructure of logistic movement. Now Malaysia is picking up time to time of their service level. Malaysia people can mix around Malaysian, Indian and Chinese. We can share together this what international like anyway. We are starting with two manpower, with myself and another staff with a small office. But Alhamdulillah, today CargoMind can handle marine handling, which is based in Kemaman, and then we handling in Labuan, we handling in Bintulu and Port Klang as well. As of today, we have about 30 overstaff inside this CargoMind, which is based in our Setia Alam office, and then we have office in Johor, we have staff in Kemaman as well as East Malaysia. Matrix really benefit us in getting our name more exposed and known in local and international. They are branding our company. Now, everybody knows about CargoMind Malaysia. In order to do business more successful, we must behave. For example, behave in your language, behave to people, be polite to people, and then always to keep smile.
I'm Hazwan, CEO of CMC Group Sdn Bhd. CMC Group is a systems technology company providing solutions and services to the public transportation, info communication, power and energy industries. Our exporting journey started in 2010 when we ventured into Singapore, Thailand and the Philippines in the telecommunication industry. In 2016, we won a system work package for the Ho Chi Minh City Metro Line project in Vietnam. This is testament to our excellent service delivery capability. Since our inception 22 years ago, we are now a true global player with a multinational workforce of 200 employees operating in 7 countries around the world. Exporting is important as it allows the company to grow beyond the domestic market, and it shows a validation of the quality of product and services that has been developed domestically. Matrix plays a key role in helping us to identify the right market via the intelligence provided, as well as to identify the right partners in the market that we intend to go in. My personal advice for potential exporters: trust in your product, build your network, and be brave to explore new horizons. The time to export is now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming to the end of the second Halal preview session of Knowledge Hub segment. Stay tuned for the next preview session, live on next Wednesday, 25th August 2021 on Halal and Technology. Also, explore new products and services from across the globe and seize business opportunities by registering for MIHAS 2021 using the QR code displayed. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you and see you again.